Good evening, good day, my friends. How are you guys doing? Thank you, Donovan. Where's the Donovan coming from, by the way? I never understood this. There's a couple of people that call me Donovan on Twitter, and I do not know the reference, and never really cared enough to look into it. Where is that coming from? Can someone educate me? Hey, Don, we are pumping. I mean, a little bit, not really. Still a lot to go. Hi, Dawn. How are you? How's the family? I mean, I'm good. My wife is struggling with the pregnancy quite a bit. Like completely closed nose because of the blood pressure, like increased blood pressure, so she cannot breathe. So she's struggling, but otherwise good. I mean, she's really struggling, so I have to pick up the slack. Is why I'm at home at all times, taking care of the baby and the house and everything. It's a lot, but not that much longer to go. Only 2.5 more months-ish, 3 months. Hey Don, how it's going? Good. How are you? Delta, good to see you. Looks like a fake pump. I do not know how, why you think that. It doesn't really look like a pump to me even. It just looks like a range. We'll talk about it though, but nothing happened in the last couple days. What's up, Don? I'm balls deep in XRP. I have 10,000 coins at an average price of 250. Should I sell soon? If you're asking me if you should sell or not, you should probably sell. Just based on the fact that you really shouldn't be asking financial advice from a duck on the internet. I mean, just if you bought it for a reason. Did that reason play out or not? I do not know. But yeah. I guess exercising, running is out of the window then. Yeah, I'm struggling. Like it's hard to exercise when you barely get any sleep. At least for me, I feel like shit when I don't sleep. And I need a lot of sleep usually. So when I get when I get 5 or 6 hours, I'm just like, I just don't want to do anything. Ansem is really uncomfortable with the duck. Yeah, I mean, the backstory behind that is basically like I said, WIF was gonna go down for I mean, not that anyone cares, but I said WIF was gonna go down here, in here, and he was like, it's going up, and then it dumped, and the more it dumped, the more aggressive he got in calling me shit, basically, and I like to respond to those kind of things, so it got worse and worse, and then it just giga dumped, and he's been trying to talk shit the entire time down, and when it bounced, he was kind of like, oh yeah, this dude sucks, and yeah, now it's back down again, and I mean, yeah, it's what it is. Some people just don't have a life. What it is. Hope he finds peace one day. I think I saw Chumbawamba call you Donovan, like in Jonathan, and found it funny as all. Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from either. Love you, Donnie. We just need to get your woke virus removed as possible. I have none of that, my friend. I am quite on the conservative side in for European standards. It's just I don't like the billionaires you guys suck up to. That's all I'm saying. I don't like Trump. I don't like Elon. These people, the same. I don't like Zuckerberg. I don't like Sam Altman. I don't like these people, just because they have money. I don't like them because they have I don't like them because they have money, but what I'm seeing in America, at least, people like people because they have money, which I find fucking weird. Because to get in the positions that these people are, you have to fuck people over, right? Like Elon, I mean, might be a genius businessman, but to get to be the richest man on the planet, you have to be cutthroat and be an asshole, like a psychopath, basically. That's just how it is. And I mean, to me, that's not something I necessarily like. But if you like it, fair enough. Don't really care at the end of the day. I just personally don't like these kind of people. Usually, they creep me the fuck out. Like, this is all like, I don't want anything to do with them. But I find it funny that people call me woke because if with my views in Europe, I'm considered exactly the opposite. But yeah. Anyway, before we start the show properly, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. I really appreciate their support. Go check them out. Links are in the description. And yeah, let's talk markets. Doug is a German nationalist. Nah, I really dislike the Nazi parties in Germany too. I wish there was like, in general, in the world, everywhere, I wish there was conservative parties that were not completely batshit insane. Like, there's so much things that I agree with on the conservative side. I just wish I could vote for someone that like is just not completely lost. But it's really like, it just doesn't really exist. So you're kind of stuck with between idiots and idiots. And I think that's the case all over the world. Like everywhere I see, it's kind of like that. Like the far right is just stupid. But then you kind of have to vote them if you want to be hard on immigration. And then you're kind of like, but you don't want to vote them. And like, I think that's the situation like most people are in. And that's why people struggle. But anyway, let's talk about price because that is more interesting than my view on the world. So high time frame, monthly, excellent. No need to talk about it. The weekly time frame, it's hilarious, right? Because we've had sentiment be as bearish as it's gotten, I think, since literally 16K. Like, I don't think sentiment has been this bad, not necessarily on Bitcoin, but just generally on crypto as a whole, as it has been in this range. And you look at this thing and you zoom out a tiny bit, like you just throw on the weekly chart, and it's one of the most insane charts we've had in a long time. Really hard to be bearish this, right? Like, if you want to be bearish, you talk about the resistance here, but then again, like, if, like, this is a range at worst. Right, and you can talk about being bearish, like this is the range, right? Let's draw it in so we have it. This is the range. So range low around 90K, range high around 105, and then range midpoint like around 100, a little bit lower. Okay, and all we did this week and last week was just go sideways. I mean, last week ended up closing green. The week before also green. This week is also up a bunch. And people are just completely losing it, which is really funny to see. And the only reason why people are getting so bearish is because they're looking at their altcoin portfolio and seeing it disappear. And they kind of think, I mean, like everything's over. Like, I'm losing so much money. And this is something that happens every single time altcoins go down. And the reason is quite simple, right? Because, like, just psychologically thinking, if you open up your crypto portfolio or whatever, you look at it and it's red number after red number, right? You generally tend to skew negative. Like, you just, I mean, your mood gets worse. You generally just kind of, your outlook on life, even like if it's week on week bearish and goes down. And then you get bearish, right? Even on stuff that isn't bearish. Like, you just generally tend to gravitate towards bearishness. And then oftentimes people are like, altcoins are down so much. It doesn't really make much sense to be bearish altcoins. Let me be bearish Bitcoin, and that's kind of what's been happening. I think that's where a lot of the bearishness comes from, which I think is ill-advised. It's not what you want to do. You don't want to let your view or like your negativity and your losses kind of impact your view. I think it's quite important that you don't. Obviously, this could still be bearish. I'm not saying like, hey, there's no chance that we're topping here. I'm just saying like, don't let your losses impact your view on the market. Have a view on the market that comes from outside of your P&L. Like if you're giga bullish, and this is how people are, right? Like they get giga bullish because their P&L is up so much. So they're positive, right? Like they're euphoric and everything is nice. And then they get more and more bullish the more their P&L is up. This is wrong. It's not how you do it, right? The higher price goes, the more risk you are in at the end of the day, right? Like if something pumps 200%, there's a good chance it retraces 50% of that at some point, like, or 300% or whatever. You're taking more risk when it goes up, and the same is true when it goes down, right? Like, so generally just try to avoid that. It's a beginner mistake, but it's a beginner mistake that I see people do that have been around for a couple of years in crypto. And that is, like I said, not to say that there's no bearish arguments here. I'm just saying a bunch of people are taking their altcoin losses and taking it out on the rest of the market, which is just not right. It's not a good way to look at it. Generally, this is the weekly time frame. We're knocking on that weekly resistance a bunch. Tested that a million times now. Like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, almost here. It's not often enough that I would say it has to break on this test, but the more often we test it, the easier it's gonna break. And then we have support, and that's been excellent. I don't know if any of you guys bought the dip at 98K because of this show, or because we talked about this last week. That's the midpoint support that you want to be looking at. Perfect hit and then bounced. If so, I mean, I'm happy to help. If not, also okay. I mean, I've just been holding, and I just look at this thing as a giant range, and there's more than enough time to get bearish if we lose the mid range. I think at that point, like if we lose 98K on the closing basis, we can start talking about maybe being a little bit more on the defensive side. If we lose the range generally, that would be not great, especially given this range is built on good news, right? You don't want good news to full retrace. It's not the best. But until that happens, and it's really not that much, right? The reason why I clown on people that like kind of flip-flop in this range is because this range is tiny. This 12% range makes no difference. Like we have ranges in crypto, like this one, for example, that's a range that's like 25% from bottom to top. We have other ranges that are much, much bigger. Like we had a range here where like the first bounce was 80% and then like 60. And I mean, it's obviously not the perfect range because it kind of like was a descending triangle. But even here, right, we had a range like of 50%. So like went down a bunch, bounced, down a bunch, bounced, whatever. You get what I'm saying? Like there is much bigger consolidations that we've had. This is a tiny, tiny one. And to change your view on the entire market just because you're losing money on altcoins or because you're having trouble reading a range is just not necessarily the best. So let me check what you guys have been writing. My stocks have been doing better than my crypto. Yeah, I think it's been the case for a lot of people. Crypto has actually like not performed that well, like all things considered. I mean, obviously, if you bought 16K, you're doing quite well. But if you bought the COVID crash on like some other things, like Facebook or whatever, Meta, or like Nvidia, you're doing like same, if not better. Bullish at resistance, bearish at support. Who is bullish at resistance, bearish at support? I've seen a lot of people flip-flop. I think it's like just like I get it. Like everyone is like losing infinite amounts of money, and you're like, this has to be bearish. But just shut that shit up. like shut that down. It makes no sense. And if I'm not making any sense today, it's because I'm sleep deprived. So don't blame me if I don't make sense today. Wouldn't you sell the range high then? Yeah, if you're a range trader, yeah. If you're level to level matey, if you bought this, you would sell the range high. Yeah. If you're not, which I'm not necessarily a range trader, then you wouldn't. I think there's enough room to kind of like hold it for resistance, but I'm a greedy man. You have the worst takes on this? I don't even know what you're talking about. I am zoomed in. A 1% dump fills my entire screen like a 98% dump. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Fair enough, depending on what kind of time frame you're trading. But yeah, I mean, weekly, just it's a range. It's at range high, but I'm not particularly bearish. Why don't you use RSI or volume indicators? Isn't it make the life easier to see RSI at 10 so you can bid without fearing too much? Nah. I mean, you can see the RSI without having the RSI open just by looking at the chart. I mean, the RSI is literally just the chart data that you have interpreted in some way. And I would rather do that interpretation by myself, not by having the RSI open. Doesn't change much for me. Like if someone's like, oh yeah, the RSI is historically super low right now, and I was bullish anyway, I'm like, okay, cool, I have added confluence, but I couldn't care less. Doesn't influence my trading decisions at all. Same with any indicator. They're all derivatives of price. Use your brain, not indicators. I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from, but maybe I'm autistic. But yeah, so weekly looks good. The monthly looks excellent. The weekly looks good. And now we're at the daily, and that one looks quite decent also. We've talked about this last stream. I was like, this is what you want to hold. We dipped into it, held it on a closing basis, bouncing now. Looks good. Like there's no real reason to be too bearish here, in my opinion. You can, like, if this happens, right, we go down here, we bounce, I mean, be bearish at that point, right? Retest of 100K from the underside, fair enough. But right now, like, this is super defensive, in my opinion. Like, being bearish anywhere in this range is being super defensive. I think, if anything, like, that's a giant range. If you're a normal person that is not freaked out by the whole like Trump admin and how the world is kind of like going a little bit crazy right now, I think even if it rolled over, you would kind of look at that as a buying opportunity and then think that it's gonna go higher, just based on the trend, right? But to me, I'm a little bit more defensive than that. That's why I would probably be on the defensive side if we flip this support. But I think that's a very bearish stance and very defensive one. But right now I just don't see it. Like I don't see the point. I don't see the bearishness, to be fair, like on this. It's quite the bullish chart to me. If we do this, right, like if we break out here and then it's shit and we fall back down, we can talk about it. Like if we go to 110, 120 and everything's euphoric and then we nuke back into the 100Ks, I'm down to be bearish at that point. Right now I'm struggling to see it, but maybe I can be educated by someone smarter than me. Crazy how many years I've been watching you in Cred. You don't know who I am, but you've played a large part in my trading career. Thank you, Don. I appreciate the nice message, man. I'm 43, hanging on every word of a 24-year-old. You've taught this old boy so much. I'm actually not 24. I was just trolling. I'm a little bit older than that. It'd be crazy to have 2 children at 24. Don, do you reckon this cycle is like 2017 where Bitcoin just grinds up, altcoins die for ages, and then when Bitcoin tops, everything rips before the end? Guessing this is why you're holding ETH for that eventually? Yeah, kind of. Like, I feel like this is very akin to 2017. Like, it feels 2017. So Don 17? Yep, exactly. No, ducks get, like, duck age, it goes up to 10. Like, ducks die, they don't get older than 10. So if you calculate, like, let's say one duck year is, so basically one human year is, oh, Jesus Christ. When you're 10 as a duck, you're 100 as a human. Um, that's kind of how I calculate. It's the same with the dog years. I actually don't know exactly how they calculate the dog years. I think it's like 7 years or something. Like every year for a dog is like 7 years for a human. Don't even know where they're coming, like who came up with that shit. But um, do you have Telegram? No. But yeah, I mean, looks good. I don't really see the point why people are freaking out, other than the fact that altcoins are dying, which is like, that's generally for me a bullish thing, because it's gonna make people like stop using leverage on Bitcoin. One, and we've had a problem. Like every time we went above 100, we had leverage increase massively, and then people just get wiped out. That's not going to be the case when altcoins are struggling, because people are just freaked out. And also you're going to have a bunch of people like rate shorting Bitcoin, because they're losing money on altcoins, which is also a good thing, right? So generally, the instinct that people have, hey, my altcoins are down a lot, so Bitcoin has to go down too, I think it's exactly the wrong thing to do. Sometimes you get lucky, and this could be one of them, right? I do acknowledge that the macro situation is a crazy one. Like, it's impossible to predict, in my opinion. But yeah, because that is the case, I'm just going to look at the chart, and the chart looks good. Don, why do you talk about politics on Twitter? For fun, trolling, engagement, all of it. Now, not the engagement part. I don't care about the engagement. My account is locked, so I like it's not like I'm trying to farm followers or engagement or any of that stuff. I'm just having fun / trolling. And I think just generally, right, like whether you're like a left leaning person or right leaning person, people just need to listen to other opinions more, right? And Twitter is very, very far right for one, and also just very echo chambery. Like everyone has the same opinion, and I think it's just generally good for discourse if people that have different opinions are able to speak up. And if I, with my differing opinions on Trump and Elon, for example, speak up, it's going to be easier for other people to do so too. And then if they fuck something up, right? Like if Trump and Elon fuck something up, there's going to be more people that hold them accountable. For example, the whole meme coin thing that Trump did, I have no idea how people are justifying it. And I think the only reason why people are justifying it is because they kind of feel like that's an okay thing to do because he's their guy. And I think that's very, very damaging just generally. You need to hold people accountable for what they do, even if you like them, right? Especially if you like them. You don't want to have them go down like a bad path. You don't want to have Trump listen to some moron advising him to launch a bunch of rugs, right? You just don't want that. So even if you're like a big fan of Trump, the whole defending him for doing these kind of things, I think is just very stupid and very short-sighted. Because if you're kind of enabling a person to do shitty things and you tell them that it's great that they're doing these shitty things, you make the world a worse place. And that's kind of like, I think we're missing a lot of that. And it's the same, like if I was a Democrat, right? Like I think talking about all the shit that, like all the insider trading that's going on the Democratic side, it happens on both sides, right? But like all the insider trading, like the Democrats are out there being like, yeah, we're so much better than the Republicans. And then they do the same amount of insider trading than the Republicans do. Like that shit needs to be talked about, whether you're like a Democrat or a Republican. And I feel like it's just not. Both sides just talk about how evil the other side is, and they don't look at the faults of their own side. And I think it's quite important to do so. So that's why I kind of like talk about it. But it's not like I'm changing anyone's mind. I just feel like it makes the discourse better, and I'm having fun doing it because people get mad. Don, did it take you long to understand trading and have a position equity curve? Have a positive equity curve? No, I got really lucky because I started off buying Doge, and it went percentage-wise. It went up infinite, like back in 2014 ish, and then I just held it for a while and then rolled it into Bitcoin, and that went up infinite, because I just started in the greatest bull market of all time. 2017 is when I went full time, and I mean I just got incredibly lucky because you couldn't really go wrong. And then I never had to, like, I started at the bottom of a bull market, so I mean it's really hard to fuck up. And I'm a cautious person, so like I had the perfect entry, and then I'm cautious enough to not get fucked by the top. So I got quite lucky. So it took me, like, literally from the moment I started, I was profitable. So, do you think memes catch a bit soon, even if just for a bounce? Or are we in for more blood still? It's hard to say. I just don't know. I generally think, I mean, they're already catching a bit. Whiffs up like 18%, Pepe's up 15, Popcat's up 15, but that's because they literally, memes capitulated yesterday. Like, I think people kind of like under appreciate what happened yesterday. Like, I legit think like the sentiment was so bad and people freaked out so much. I think memes capitulated yesterday, which could lead, like, you can have, I think with, for example, like it was trading below $1 yesterday, you could see it trade to 2, and it would still be hilariously bearish. Like, this could easily do something like this and still go back down. So do I think memes bounce soon? They have the ability to, if they're not complete pieces of shit, and if Bitcoin isn't like is at least a little bit bullish, I could see that. Yeah, I could see them go down, like up a bunch. Same with Popcat, like that's down infinite, can easily, like, look, the last consolidation that it had, the last high of the consolidation was at 0.57. Yesterday, I mean, this doesn't look like much, right? But look how much this dumped. This is a 50% dump in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Like, that's proper capitulation. And after capitulation like that, you can easily get like a proper bounce. And the bounce would, like a 2x would basically just take it back to where it was like 5 days ago. So memes can easily bounce depending on the strength of Bitcoin, but generally not that bullish on them anyway. But people are gonna be giga bullish if that happens, right? Like if memes double and they're like, haha, everyone called memes dead, and now they're doubling. And then it can still, and very likely would still be bearish, but yes. Do you care about OI values or check funding rates when trading or just charting? When I'm trading, I check funding, yeah, because I don't want to pay out of my ass, but it doesn't really, like, it's only like a consideration for like whether I buy something spot or if I do it like with leverage, or how I want to structure my trade. It's not, do I get in that trade because of it? Just in rare edge cases, does funding influence my trading, and OI almost never does. So can you do the same for Pepe? I mean, look, you have these, they dumped infinite, they can bounce. There's nothing you can really say. Like, it literally, like, it capitulated yesterday. Like, if you're giga bullish memes and you think they're the future, I mean, you would want to slap your stop loss at below the lows of yesterday and then just run it. And maybe you catch the bottom. And maybe we have more capitulating to do. I do not know, and I'm not an expert on trading memes. I think there's a chance that they run a little bit. Like the same with. Look, if if Pepe runs 50%, it's a bearish retest. And Pepe is much bigger than WIF. That's why it went down. Like Pepe is down right now 50% at the low, 60% from the high. If you held WIF, you were a little bit less lucky. They went all the way down 80%, right? Like that's a nice number, like down 80% in a bull market, capitulating into it. If this doesn't bounce properly, like these things are just so fucking dead. So yeah. Anyway, Bitcoin, good. Lower time frames, not that interesting. Generally, you want to see, like it'd be nice to trade above here. I think that's when it would really start kicking off. Anything below here can still just turn around and dump, and that would not be great. But if you look at the daily, it's still good. ETH, it's just a ginormous disappointment, but it's still the same as all the other weeks. As long as 2.9k holds, looks okay. ETH BTC obviously just shit. That's also gonna close quite poorly in 2 days, unless something drastically changes in the next 2 days. So ETH BTC has the next support is a little bit away, like another 10-15%. ETH USD showing weakness, but still, like all in all, looks quite good in the bigger consolidation view. But would obviously be nicer if this was a little bit stronger compared to other things. Big outlier is XRP. We talked about it for what is now like 3 months actually. Went from 0.6 all the way to $3. I still think there's more in the tank. Had a nice kind of like capitulation wick to the downside, retested the prior range, bounced all the way back up. Now I think this is more interesting than the lower one. Like if you want to have a chart, this is kind of the range that we're in right now. Same as Bitcoin, much smaller than prior ranges, or like at least the prior range. This one was like 20%. This one here, just 10%, right? So we'll see how that resolves. It generally looks quite good to me, but can turn quite quickly. And if it, now that it's kind of wiped out everyone, if it comes back down, I'll be much more concerned than I was before it did that wipeout. So basically when you have like a retest like this is good, unless you start doing this over and over again. So like when you have a chart that looks like this, and then you have candles where you have a wick down here, and then you have a wick down here, and you have a wick down here, and people are like, oh, this is SFPs, whatever. No, it's not. This is just bad. Like this is just basically like a person just dumping a bunch. The market follows through, but they're dumping it obviously below market value, and then they're doing it again, and they're doing it again, and there's less and less bid to hold the market up. And usually what happens in those instances is that it just falls off a cliff. So if it does something like this, where it kind of rolls over and starts doing like wicks like this, that would be bad news. That's not what you want to see. But until it does that, or unless it does that, just looks good. On the Bitcoin front, same story. Retested quite deep, but looks quite good. Is XRP retesting the range means it's less bullish now? I mean, generally the market's been quite weak. I prefer no retests, but this is, to me, fine. Like, this is fine. Like when you have, let's say, look, you have a breakout like this, and the market breaks out and then does this, and it's just gone from like bearish to bullish. This is not what you want to see, because in my eyes, I mean, you can still buy this and you have a good invalidation down here and you can still target higher, right? But just generally, like, this is worse than just what XRP did, which is just shoot off, because it shows that there's still underlying like weakness. The breakout didn't really have much follow through. The market was weak enough to give like the perfect entry, and whenever everyone gets the perfect entry, I get a little bit spooked out. It's not usually a good sign. But when you have a market that does this and goes sideways, does this, goes sideways, and it's like infinitely bullish, and then it retests at some point, I'm not necessarily like as freaked out because the trend is much more bullish, right? So for example, when you look at Bitcoin, and you're like, so you had the breakout here, and you're like, oh, this should have gone here, and then it would have been more bullish. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like the fact that it got bought up much before that support level was tested again is a bullish sign. And then we ran and we retested, right? Like this is a retest of that breakout. And I'm much more comfortable with that retest than I would have been with the early one. But that's just personal preference. It's basically the trend was confirmed by here already, right? Like we had a proper breakout. At this point, we would have had to break down to ruin it, but we didn't. When you're down here and it's like this is a horrendous bear market, and then you get like one good move that immediately retests, at that point, this is probably a fake out. But given it's not, that showed some strength, and then we just had that run up. That's kind of how I look at it. But Don, what's your favorite coins at the moment? I mean, I don't really have favorite coins. I just like the ones that I'm trading. I like XRP because I mean that's been going really well. I just don't like it on the fundamental side of things. I just like it as a trade. I like ETH because there's a high time frame trade set up there, but obviously that's been underperforming. It's not the best trade in the world. I just like it because it's so simple. I like Bitcoin because it's also very simple, but I don't like any of these fundamentally. The only thing that I like fundamentally is Bitcoin, realistically. Don, can you talk about the base trenches? No, I have literally not even looked at them for a second. 6 to 8K Ethereum still possible? Yeah, if the market turns around, yeah, for sure. So I was waiting to fill XRP trade on 2.96. You didn't let the price go there. I'm not trading that low time frame, mate. If you take like I actually did buy this. Like I bought this into the dump. That was actually quite nice. But I'm not low time frame enough to sit here and do these. I just look at the big ones. Same as in this range. Like I like it. I generally, when the market is this bearish, like everyone is this bearish, I like the washouts. I did the same here when the range broke down. I did the same here again. But that's something that I trade around, so I don't necessarily wanna post about it too much and talk about it too much, because I could sell that right now or tomorrow, depending on where stuff goes. There's just me trading. Did you buy spot altcoins in the bear market and held multi-year? No, I never do that. I just, if there's one thing I would hold multi-year, it's Bitcoin, and it's very rare that I do. I don't hold stuff for that long. Will you tell us when you sell XRP for good? Yes, I will, but that might not be the top, and might also not be, like it might go up further once I sell, or I might sell once it's already down a bunch. And I have taken some XRP profits already. Like I'm up, like I bought 0.6, it's at $3. I've been in and out of XRP, like not fully out, but I've been in and out of this thing. Like I've traded a bunch, I've taken a bunch of profit. So it's not like I've been 100% hodling from 0.6, but I've actually held like a very large percentage of what I bought at 0.6, which is rare for me, but it just seems like a brain dead play, or it's a little bit less brain dead now at $3. I think this, like at $3, it's much more risky than it was at 2, and it's much more risky than it was at 0.6. But I still think there's, like, if the market goes up, I think XRP is one of, if not the best coins to take advantage of it. Someone asked for Trump. I mean, I really don't want to trade Trump because I just don't like it. I don't like what this stands for. And it's not, I hate Trump. I don't like him, but that is not the reason. I just don't think this is necessarily like a good thing for democracy, the world, whatever. I think this is like a dark path to go down. So I don't necessarily want to be trading this unless it's super, super mispriced. So if this was like at $5, $10, maybe even $15, I could see myself take it for a trade. Because I'm like, the opportunity is so great that I'm down to kind of jump over my shadow. But at these kind of prices, I just don't want to. But it just takes one advisor of Trump to go to him and be like, hey, dude, I bought like 100 million of your coin. Can you do me a big favor and talk about it? And if he says it in a nice enough way and Trump goes on stage and talks about his coin, this thing is up like 30%, right? So I don't really think any TA levels or whatever matter here. It matters more whether you have access to Trump or not. If you have access to Trump and can make him talk about it, I mean, that's what you want to be doing, right? Like, and then you want to gobble this up and then just go to Trump and be like, hey, dude, do me a favor. But it's just fucked up, man. It's just fucked up. Like, I don't really understand how anyone can look at that situation and be like, okay, yeah, that's a fine thing to have in the world in general. It's something that I've relentlessly bullied other people on Twitter for. And now the president of the United States is doing it. Is what it is. Hey, Don, what do you think about Light Crypto? Do you think he's a good trader? He hardly ever posts anything nowadays. Yeah, he's a giga chad. He's not always right. And no one is always right. But it's one of the people on crypto Twitter that I respect the most. And it's like a very, very short list. I really like the guy. So usually a little bit too bearish, or like generally a little bit early, but oftentimes right. And he has very solid reasoning, which a lot of people don't do in crypto. Does Trump actually hold any Trump coin or has financial gain if it goes up? He holds 80%, my dude. 80% of this shit. Like I think it's 3 months, he gets a bunch of unlocks. And if Trump is still this high, he doubles his net worth. Like, he has a ginormous financial interest in this thing. What the fuck? How is that legal? Don't ask me, dude. I mean, it is. Meme coins are not necessarily like if you don't promise people that they're going to make money, I mean, there's a lot of things that are in a gray area. But the fact that the president is doing stuff in a gray area is not the best. But legally, he can't sell, I think. I mean, technically, and that's the thing, like, it's structured in a way where he technically doesn't own it. Like, this is like a subsidiary or something. I'm not an expert in this stuff, but, like, so don't ask me how this is structured and what he can do with it, because I just don't know. But he has a ginormous financial interest in this, no matter what. So, yeah, that's Trump. I would not want to be too bearish because I'm pretty sure Trump is gonna be, even if he's not gonna, and like the thing is with the whole Trump coin, right? Even if he doesn't dump, if you look into the history of Trump coin and how it was launched and kind of wallet activity around the launch, you can clearly see that there was a lot of very wealthy people that knew that this was gonna happen and that took advantage of it and knew before. And like there's wallets that put $1 million into a new coin where everyone was like, this has to be fake. Donald Trump has to be hacked. And then didn't sell until like until they made like 100 million or something like that. And there's a lot of them. And a lot of people had insider information on this thing, presumably just from how it all traded. So even if he doesn't dump, I mean, Trump and his friends made a lot of money on this already. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance that this is, like, Trump is going to mention this. I wouldn't want to short it, even though I think this is generally heading to zero. Like, what happens with this once Trump isn't president anymore? It goes to zero, right? It's just how it is. But until then, there's going to be trades there. I just personally don't wanna play it. Dogecoin, I mean, all of the other ones not that interesting. I think like they're all kind of ETH-like, where they look okay, but what they're doing is not necessarily great. For example, Solana here, right? Like, depending on how it goes, right? It's gonna kind of close nicely above the monthly resistance level, and then it's technically bullish. And it got rejected by resistance that it's been rejected off like twice already. Almost went to daily support. But it's so choppy. Like everything is very choppy right now, and altcoins are just not doing so great. So it's really hard to judge them. Like in comparison to Bitcoin, the smaller the market cap, the worse it's been. And I don't necessarily want to make too grand calls on these, just because like I'm not trading them, and I don't really have a strong opinion. Like I look at Sol BTC. I mean that's awful, technically speaking. But it can turn around quite fast. And I mean, that weekly was quite nice. That was because of the Trump coin. But like that diagonal plus horizontal combo has been killer. And then I look at Sol USD and I'm like, I mean, that just looks like it wants to go up. But then you have like conflicting views and all that kind of shit, and I don't like it. I don't want to make any like, oh, this is gonna go up or down calls, because I just don't know. Do you think wait for the chop to end to bid? I mean, yeah, you can do that. Like, look, like Bitcoin goes above 104. We're probably in for some good times. I think like 110 to 120 is almost guaranteed, and then anything above, like anything to 150 is possible at that point, I think. So if you're just waiting for this to break out, either way, I think that's fine too. Yeah, I don't judge anyone for being out of the market here, and I don't judge anyone for being bearish here. What I do judge people for is if they jump back and forth based on a range that is just 10% size. I think that's a little bit stupid. Sol BTC will do the same as ETH BTC, just one cycle late. Yeah, I think so too. I generally think this cycle has shown that anything that isn't Bitcoin will be disrupted, whether it be a meme, whether it be a layer one, whether it be anything, right? Like you're gonna have like Solana is gonna be disrupted by, I mean, there's 10 coins coming out that try to do what Solana does, just better. And I mean, it's gonna come out, they're gonna have a bunch of money because they raised a bunch of money, and then I mean they can just put incentives out, and you're gonna have a bunch of activities on their chain. Their coins are gonna go up because no back holders, whereas on the Solana chain you're gonna have a shitload of back holders. They go up, people are gonna be like, oh shit, this is the new layer one. People rotate, and then that coin goes up, and then a year later or 6 months later, you're gonna have a new coin does the same thing. That, you know, like that's how it goes. Basically, like we had that with ETH to Sol. Now we're gonna get it from Sol to new coins, and in 6 months, 1 year, we're gonna get the same thing from that new coin to a newer coin. And at the end of the day, it's just all mercenary capital going from one coin to the next. No one truly gives a fuck. Like there's no idealists, or very, very little in the space right now. Could you show me the XRP levels again? There you go. But I mean, it's just nothing groundbreaking. Why is your X account just an Elon and Trump paid account now? Thought you were hacked. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Like, I mean, 90% of my posts in the let's say 60-70% of my posts have still been market commentary. And the reason why I'm talking about Elon and Trump is because they are market, like these are people that influence the market now, like Trump does. Like the Trump coin, the reason why altcoins are down so much, like one of the main reasons is because Trump launched his meme coin and sucked all the liquidity out of the altcoin market, and there wasn't enough to go around anymore. Is there a single good chart outside of Bitcoin and XRP? I actually struggle. I'm actually struggling. There's like, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know what kind of crime the XRP people are doing, but this is fucking absurd. Like, this is absurd. Like, this is the XRP Bitcoin chart. Now we look at other Bitcoin pairs. Sol BTC, right? Trump literally launched his coin on this thing. Kind of doesn't look so great, right? We go on. I mean, you don't even need to open the meme coin Bitcoin pairs, but we can do it. Like this with USD, right? You think you've had it bad? Think again. This is the WIF chart against Bitcoin. Fucking horrendous. Down 82% right now, down 85% at the lows, right? Like that's, this is Link BTC. Okay. And then you look at XRP BTC and you're like, what the fuck? Like, where's the strength coming from? I don't know. They're doing crime and they're doing it well. And I mean, I'm just along for the ride for now. But one thing that I do want to say is that, I mean, you don't want to be the XRP backholder, right? So be ready to jump out whenever. But right now it's the strongest altcoin. The strength is because you're bidding? Nah, nah. XRP is way too big for that. It's one of the reasons why I talk about it. Like, I have no problem talking about XRP because it's liquid enough where I don't have any influence on it. ETH BTC must be close to capitulation now. I mean, to be fair, people have been saying that for years now. Don't you think we have so many good news and market is quite weak, still in range despite the nice news like Czech Republic, strategic reserve, etc.? So one thing that you have to know is that no capital market matters at all besides the US. Nothing, the US and maybe China, but not really. Nothing else matters. Like you see something about like we had ETFs in Europe way before we had them in America. No one even gives a fuck. They have volumes of like, there's like 2 Bitcoin traded. Obviously, I mean, tongue in cheek, there's more, but like capital markets outside of the US matter very, very little. That's one. And then 2, we also had a bunch of bad news. Like people were pricing in, and the reason, like, we talked about this on the show. People priced in a Bitcoin strategic reserve, a strategic Bitcoin reserve, whatever you want to call it. And what they got was basically an altcoin strategic reserve, proposed anyway, with a little bit of Bitcoin thrown in. Like that's hilariously bearish. And it held up quite nicely. So we had bearish news, we had bullish news, we had all of it. I think it's quite neutral. People were pricing in that Trump was gonna basically make the US buy full stack buy Bitcoin, and they got disappointed and it didn't nuke. I think that's a good thing. And then we had a bunch of other good news that didn't really do anything. I think it's neutral at best on the news side. And on the macro side, I'm just clueless because who the fuck can predict Trump? Is he gonna invade like Greenland next week? I don't know. Probably not. There's a chance that he actually does it. It's probably low, but if he does it, like, I mean, what's gonna happen to markets? If he doesn't, you know, like the world is a fucking crazy place now. Like, if Trump is anything but predictable, I would say, like in how crazy he can go. He starts any shit. He throws some tariffs that hurt in the wrong way, and we're gonna see massive down candles. He says something bullish about crypto, we're gonna see massive up candles. So the macro situation is kind of like a wash, because he is on the crypto side. Seems quite clear on that front. I mean, he has a personal interest to pump it, so he probably will try. But he also does wild shit that could easily lead to the market going down. So I think the macro side, you kind of have to have that a wash as well, and then you just look at the TA, because like those 3 things are the main factors. And then the TA so far supports bullishness, but it obviously can turn quite quickly. And that's why I'm a little bit skittish but not as skittish as the people on Twitter have been in like literally like, what is this range? Let me see. Like it's a 4% range. People have lost their minds. Can you start posting Bitcoin to 150k instead of saying it looks okay? No, I don't wanna bull post to 150k. I just wanna. I mean, dude, I just want my ETH, my XRP to go up, and I mean, Bitcoin going up is a nice bonus, and then I want to get the fuck out if I can. So I'm not gonna bull post too much. All of this commentary is quite short term, I think. And I'm gonna end the stream on this note. I think we're quite late into the cycle, and I think it's getting more and more risky. And there's a reason why I've been cashing out into bank accounts. I just think there's like the cycle ending like this would be a ginormous disappointment, and I don't think that's necessarily too likely given the situation with just the US. Kind of like starting to embrace crypto. I think that has a little bit more room to go. But I mean, I kind of appreciate the fact that like, how are you gonna go more degenerate than the president of the United States having a meme coin? I think there's a lot of top signals floating around, and they're actually quite accurate. Like in any prior cycle, I would have probably like sold most already. Right now, I think there's a little bit more to go, but we are in a precarious situation, given the cycle has gone on for quite a while now. So gotta be a little bit risk averse, but I also think, I think there's room for more craziness, and I'm just not ready to fully throw in the towel yet. Didn't you say a couple of months left at best? Yeah, I said that like in December or something, and now we're in January. I think with Trump being surprisingly more bullish on crypto than I thought, we have a little bit more room to go, like a little bit more time. But I think I don't give it more than a year. I think 12 months is insane. Like if someone's like, hey, in 12 months, we're still going to be ragingly bullish, I'd be like, I wouldn't necessarily subscribe to that. 6 months I could see. 3 months I think is like, I think that's not too aggressive. Like that we kind of like go for 3 more months from here. Could see that. 6 months I could see it if we stretch it. 12 months I'd be very, very surprised if we didn't top and go down in the next 12 months. That's kind of how I look at it. My mind can change on that, obviously. It's not like I'm here to predict the future. I'm just here to make money. But that's just where my head's at, because, I mean, everything's fucking crazy right now. Like, just how it is. And if it goes any more crazy, I think we run out of steam quite fast. But also, when it goes super crazy, shit just flies, and shit's cool. Shit's fun. So fingers crossed we still get that part of the cycle. But it's never guaranteed. I see a lot of people be like, I'm owed my altcoin season, I'm owed this and that. You're owed nothing in the market. We're here to trade, and the market is gonna bend you over if you think it owes you anything. It really doesn't. So, yeah. Hope that wasn't too negative of a note. I don't think it was. I'm still hopeful for the near future, at least. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for coming by. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. Much love, and we'll see each other on Friday. Bye bye.